Ethan Whitaker was kind to every girl in our grade. Every girl except me. During a penalty game at a class gathering, another girl only had to smile at him, and he stepped in for her without hesitation. He took her silly dare drink the sour lemonade meant for her, and laughed it off like a gentleman. When it was my turn, he pointed at the field outside the window and said, "Either run 10 laps, finish your own penalty." When someone tried to help me, Ethan stopped them. "Lily Harper has hands, feet and a backbone," he said lightly. "It is just a penalty. She can handle it." That was Ethan with me. So when our class ordered shirts for field day, I should have expected what happened. There were 49 students in our homeroom. Only 48 shirts arrived. The class shirts were supposed to be handled by the arts committee chair, but Ethan had taken the job before anyone else could. He stood at the front of the classroom, tapped the teacher's desk once, and pulled everyone's attention toward him. "You all know field day is coming up," he said. "The school wants every class to wear matching shirts for the opening parade. My dad knows a few designers, so I can handle the whole thing. Sound good?" The classroom went silent for half a second. Then cheers filled the room. Ethan lifted his eyes and gave me a lazy glance. My pencil froze against my scratch paper. My heart sank before anything even happened. Ethan had not always been like this. When we were little, he had wanted me everywhere with him. If he turned around and could not see me, he cried until someone found me. He was the kid who held my sleeve at birthday parties and saved me the last cookie. But after middle school started, my childhood friend changed. He began making fun of me in front of others. If anyone had a crush on me, Ethan's friends would spread it all over the class. "Lily, we heard some guy from the next homeroom likes you." One of them would say. "That is a problem. You are practically Ethan's future wife. What if someone steals you away?" Whenever they said things like that, Ethan would kick the leg of their chair and look annoyed. "Stop it," he would say. "I am not interested in a girl that soft." But when we were children, he was the one who had cried and begged our parents to promise that we would be together someday. He had even sneaked into his mother's jewelry box and brought me a handful of her gold pieces. "Here," he said back then, his small face completely serious. "Mom said, grown UPS give engagement gifts. These are mine." That night, his parents scolded him so thoroughly that he hid behind my backyard fence for an hour. Still, our parents remembered the promise. So did I. As we got older, Ethan was no longer satisfied with words. Whenever he bought small things for the girls in class, he always somehow forgot mine. Whenever there was a group discussion, the time, he told me, was always an hour later than the real one. At first, I bit my lip and fought tears. Then he would ruffle my hair and whisper beside my ear, "Do not be sad, Lily. I just wanted you to rest a little longer." Once, twice. After enough times, I finally understood he had not forgotten. He was leaving me out on purpose. But my mother said, "Lily, did Ethan eventually give you the gift?" "Yes," I said. "And when you went to the meeting late, did he let anyone blame you?" "No." "Then that means he cares more than he knows how to admit. Boys that age can be terrible at expressing themselves. Maybe he is trying to get your attention, only in the wrong way." She patted my hand. "Talk to him." I believed her. I should not have. The result of that conversation was a basketball flying past my hand and slamming into the fence behind me. I flinched. Ethan's face was red. I could not tell if it was from anger or the heat. His lips moved quickly, every word sharper than the last who said, "I wanted your attention." He stepped closer, eyes blazing. "So many girls like me. Why do you have to make everything about yourself?" I stood there stunned. "You are the one who keeps acting like you want to be my girlfriend." He continued, "I already told you I have a bad memory. You are thinking too much." He walked away with his shoulders tense. Then he turned back, stormed toward me and stopped right in front of me. "Lily Harper," he said, his jaw tight. "I have been looking at you for years. I am tired of it." His voice lowered. "I will never like you." That night, I cried into my pillow until my eyes were swollen. Every promise Ethan had made when we were little, I had believed I really did like him. Later, as schoolwork became heavier, I had less time to drown in those feelings. I studied more, spoke less, and tried to ignore the way my heart still moved whenever he was near. The arts committee chair finished counting the field day shirts and whispered awkwardly, "Why is one missing again?" I sat at my desk, unable to lift my pencil. When I looked up, Ethan's eyes were already on me. There was amusement in them. The whispers around me grew louder. "The missing one is probably Lily's. Ethan is polite to everyone else. When I fell last month, he took me to the nurse and bought me bandages. Why does he always get mean? When it is Lily, I am glad it is not me. If the whole class had a shirt except me, I would spend all night wondering what was wrong with me." Their words pressed against my ears. At the same time, I remembered something I had overheard not long before. I had been passing the back stairwell when one of Ethan's friends said it. "It's kind of funny when you mess with Lily. Every time she looks at you, She is like a startled rabbit. You tease her and her eyes turn all bright. Another boy laughed. Do not say it like that. That look could make a guy like her. The room had gone quiet for 1 second. Then Ethan's voice cut through it. Do not get ideas about Lily. Someone teased. Why do you like her? No, Ethan said coldly. She annoys me. He is always in front of me. Always smiling at other people. Every time I see it, I get irritated. But you are in the same class. A chair scraped hard against the floor. No one laughed after that. Standing in our classroom now, I suddenly understood everything. It was not the kind of caring my mother had imagined. It was not clumsy affection. It was Ethan's game. He liked watching me react. My hands went cold. My teeth almost chattered. People did not become cruel overnight. There were always signs. Ethan finished handing out the shirts and drifted to my desk. He looked down at me and smiled. Princess probably would not want something like this. Anyway, I looked at him. Then for the first time, I smiled back, without trying to please him. You are right, I said. If it came from you, I would not even want to look at it. The whole classroom went still. Someone inhaled sharply. Ethan's eyes darkened. No one dared to speak. At that exact moment, Chloe Hayes, the prettiest girl from another homeroom, appeared outside our window and waved. Ethan, she called. Are we going or not? He ignored her. Instead, he pressed one hand over the worksheet on my desk. Oh, he said softly. Impressive. His smile did not reach his eyes. I thought I had designed one especially for you. But I guess you would not want that either. In the past, I would have explained myself. If Ethan had secretly handed me the special shirt. Later, I probably would have cried, forgiven him and smiled through the pain. But after realizing that, my years of affection had turned into something muddy and useless. None of that mattered anymore. A private apology after public humiliation. Special treatment that made me stand out for the wrong reasons. None of it was kindness. My mind became clearer every time Ethan made me different. He put me under a spotlight and let everyone watch me burn. Besides, if one person in a class wore a different shirt, everyone would stare. That was not a gift. That was another stage. While we were locked in silence, Chloe walked into the room and leaned casually against Ethan's shoulder. You said you were taking me to watch the game, she said. Why are you still wasting time here? Ethan did not answer her. He glared at me then rushed back to his seat. From his backpack he pulled out a pale shirt, sealed carefully in plastic and tossed it to Chloe. His eyes stayed fixed on me. Princess does not want it. I said. You can have it. I recognized the brand immediately. Before I turned 14, Ethan had given me something from that designer for every birthday. The designer had retired 3 years ago. Rumors said he would only take special requests if someone worked as his unpaid assistant for an entire month. That summer, Ethan had disappeared for a month. I would be lying if I said it did not hurt. Chloe caught the shirt and smiled. Nice. I will gladly accept it. But Lily, it was just a joke. Taking it this seriously is not cute. She tugged Ethan's sleeve. He lowered his eyes and patted her hand twice, almost helplessly. When I used to walk even a step slower than he wanted, he would urge me along with impatience. So he could be gentle, just not with me. The bell rang. The bell's shrill ring echoed through the classroom, breaking the suffocating silence. As the rest of the students hurriedly packed their bags, eager to escape the suffocating tension, I stayed exactly where I was. I watched Ethan and Chloe disappear down the hallway. The pale, custom-made shirt was slung carelessly over Chloe's shoulder. It caught the fluorescent light, revealing the faint, intricate embroidery along the collar. Lilies. Tiny white lilies. He had spent a month as an unpaid assistant to a reclusive designer just to have that made. And he had tossed it away like a cheap rag the second I refused to play my part in his twisted theater. Lily. I blinked, pulling my gaze away from the empty doorway. The arts committee chair, a quiet girl named Maya, stood awkwardly by my desk. She was clutching a clipboard against her chest like a shield. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know he was going to do that. If I had known, I would have ordered yours myself. It's okay, Maya, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. It's really not your fault. I packed my bag, the metallic click of my binder rings sounding unusually loud. When I walked out of the school building, the afternoon air hit my face, crisp and indifferent. For the first time in years, I didn't look toward the oak tree by the front gates. That was where Ethan usually waited, dictating whether I would walk home with him or if he would leave me standing there while he drove off with his friends. Today, I just turned left and started walking. When I got home, my mother was in the kitchen, humming as she sliced apples. She looked up, her smile bright. How was school, sweetie? Did you get your field day shirt? I dropped my backpack by the counter. No. Her knife paused. What do you mean? Did they run out? Ethan was in charge of ordering them, I said, keeping my tone perfectly flat. He ordered 48. There are 49 of us. My mother's brow furrowed. Oh, Lily. I'm sure it was an oversight. You know, Ethan, he can be a bit careless. Mom. I looked at her, really looked at her. He had a custom shirt made. A designer one. He brought it to class, humiliated me in front of everyone, and when I didn't beg for it, he gave it to Chloe Hayes. The kitchen went dead silent. The denial that usually softened my mother's eyes flickered and died. She set the knife down slowly. He did what? She asked, her voice losing its gentle lilt. He's not clumsy, Mom. He doesn't care more than he knows how to admit. He just likes having the power to make me feel small. He likes watching me panic. I took a breath, the realization still cold and heavy in my chest. And I'm done. I'm entirely done. My mother didn't offer any platitudes this time. She walked around the counter and pulled me into a tight hug. Against my shoulder, I heard her whisper, I'm so sorry, Lily. I shouldn't have told you to keep trying. It's okay, I said, hugging her back. And strangely, it was. The endless, exhausting maze of trying to decode Ethan's cruelty had suddenly vanished. The wall was just a wall. I didn't have to keep bashing my head against it, hoping to find a hidden door. Field day arrived 2 days later. The sky was an unforgiving, brilliant blue. Our homeroom looked like a moving sea of neon yellow. The shirts Ethan had procured were bright, garish, and impossible to miss. I arrived 10 minutes before the opening parade, wearing a plain, stark black athletic shirt. The moment I stepped onto the grass, heads turned. Whispers rippled through the yellow crowd. I could feel their eyes charting the anomaly, the one black dot in a sea of neon. Ethan was standing near the bleachers, surrounded by his usual audience. He was holding a clipboard, looking every bit the charismatic leader. Then he saw me. His laughter cut off abruptly. He expected me to look down. He expected me to linger on the edges, radiating. Ching. Instead, I walked directly to the sign-in table, grabbed my name tag and pinned it to my black shirt. Nice shirt, a voice said beside me. I turned. It was a boy with dark, messy hair and quiet, observant eyes. He was wearing the neon yellow shirt of a different homeroom, but he had aggressively cut the sleeves off and drawn a massive, terrible cartoon cat on the front with a Sharpie. I'm Julian, he said. Next homeroom over. The guy from the next homeroom. The one Ethan's friends had used to taunt me. Lily, I said. I like the cat. Thanks. It's supposed to be a tiger, but I lack the necessary artistic trauma to make it convincing. He leaned against the table, his eyes casually scanning the field. I heard about the shirt fiasco. For what it's worth, the black is a much better look. You don't look like a walking highlighter. It was a last-minute fashion choice, I said dryly. Across the field, I felt a familiar, burning gaze. Ethan was staring at us, his jaw locked so tight I could practically hear his teeth grinding. Beside him, Chloe appeared. She was wearing the custom designer shirt. It was a disaster. The shirt was a delicate, pearl-colored silk blend. It was designed for someone with a smaller, narrower frame, my frame. On Chloe, the shoulders pulled too tightly, and the exquisite lily embroidery at the collar was stretched and distorted. Worse, she was on a muddy athletic field. Within 10 minutes, the hem was stained with dirt. Ethan looked from Chloe to me, and then to Julian. He shoved his clipboard into a friend's chest and started marching toward us. Harper, Ethan snapped as he approached. He didn't even look at Julian. What are you wearing? Clothes, I said, not breaking eye contact. You're ruining the class aesthetic. The parade is in 5 minutes. You're going to make us look ridiculous. Take it up with the arts committee, I replied, my voice light completely, devoid of the tremor that used to accompany my words when I spoke to him. Oh, wait, that's you. You should have ordered 49. Ethan's eyes darkened, that familiar storm brewing in them. He stepped closer, invading my space, trying to use his height to intimidate me. I offered you a solution, Lily. You threw a tantrum. Before I could answer, Julian stepped smoothly between us. He didn't puff out his chest or act aggressive. He just shifted his weight, creating a physical barrier. Hey man, Julian said, his tone mild, almost bored. They're calling for homeroom 3B to line up. You might want to get back to your highlighters. Ethan sneered at him. Stay out of this, Vance. This has nothing to do with you. Just pointing out the time, Julian said, tapping an imaginary watch on his wrist. Ethan glared at me, his chest heaving slightly. You're going to regret this. Lily, you think you can just act like this? Act like what, Ethan? I asked quietly. Like I don't care? I don't. Go play with Chloe. I turned my back on him. It was the hardest physical movement I had ever made in my life. Every instinct conditioned over a decade screamed at me to turn back, to apologize, to soothe his ego so he wouldn't punish me later. But I kept my back straight, walking with Julian toward the bleachers. When I finally glanced back over my shoulder, Ethan was standing completely still, watching me walk away. He looked entirely, deeply furious. High school is an ecosystem. When an apex predator's behavior changes, the whole jungle shifts. For the first 3 weeks after field day, I vanished from Ethan's orbit. I stopped taking the back stairwell where his friends hung out. I stopped eating lunch in the courtyard where he held court. I joined the library volunteer program, spending my free periods cataloging books in the dusty, quiet archives. Julian, it turned out, practically lived in the archives. We didn't become best friends overnight. It was a slow, quiet accumulation of shared silence. We would sit at opposite ends of a large oak table, reading or studying. Sometimes he would slide a piece of candy across the table without looking up. Sometimes I would pass him a book I thought he'd like. It was peaceful. It was everything my relationship with Ethan was not. But Ethan did not handle the silence well. At first, he tried to play it cool. He escalated his public performances. He started dating Chloe officially, making a massive show of walking her to class, buying her extravagant gifts, and kissing her loudly in the hallways. In the past, this would have destroyed me. I would have spent nights crying, wondering why I wasn't good enough, why she was worth the grand gestures while I was only worth the scraps. Now, it just looked exhausting. By November, the cracks in Ethan's facade began to show. His grades slipped. Got into a fist fight during a basketball game, something he had never done before, and was benched for 2 weeks. The whispers in the hallway changed. What's wrong with Ethan? Why is he always so angry lately? I found out why on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I had stayed late to finish a history paper. The halls were mostly empty, illuminated by the sickly yellow glow of emergency lights. As I closed my locker, a hand slammed against the metal door next to my head, startled me. I flinched, stepping back. Ethan was standing there. His hair was damp from the rain and his eyes were bloodshot. The arrogant smirk he usually wore was entirely gone, replaced by something frantic and ugly. You're avoiding me, he said. It wasn't a question. I'm going to class, Ethan, I said, clutching my books to my chest. Let me pass. No. He moved, blocking my path entirely. You don't get to just walk away. Lily, we've known each other since we were 5. You don't get to just pretend I don't exist. You did a pretty good job of pretending I didn't exist unless you needed a punching bag. I retorted, the anger flaring up, hot and sudden. Move. You think you're better than me now? He mocked, though his voice shook slightly. Because you hang out with Vance? Because you sit in a dusty room all day? You're pathetic. He reached out, his hand moving toward my head. It was the old gesture, the condescending hair ruffle he used to do after he had humiliated me, the physical touch meant to confuse me and keep me tethered to him. Before his fingers could graze my hair, I smacked his hand away. The sharp slap of my palm against his skin echoed in the empty hallway. Ethan froze, staring at his hand in shock. Don't touch me, I said, my voice low and venomous. Don't ever touch me again. Lily. His voice broke, suddenly losing its aggression. He looked at me, and, for a split second, I saw the little boy who used to cry when he couldn't find me at birthday parties. Why are you doing this? I didn't mean for it to go this far. You were suffocating me. I was suffocating you? I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Ethan, I didn't ask for any of it. I didn't ask for you to promise me the world when we were kids. I didn't ask for you to single me out, to isolate me, to mock me. You did that. You wanted an audience, and you wanted a victim. Well, the show's over. I stepped around him. This time he didn't try to stop me. I still have the ring, he shouted down the hallway as I walked away. I stopped, my blood turning to ice. The gold ring from my mom's jewelry box, he called out, his voice desperate, echoing off the lockers. The one I gave you when we were 7. My parents made me take it back, but I kept it. I hid it in my desk all these years. I still have it, Lily. He was using the past, the ultimate weapon. He wanted me to turn around, to melt into tears, to realize that deep down he truly cared. I didn't turn around. Keep it, I said, my voice carrying clearly down the hall. Give it to Chloe. Give it to whoever you want. It's just a piece of metal. I pushed open the heavy double doors and walked out into the rain, leaving him standing alone in the dark. Things accelerated after that hallway confrontation. Ethan's obsession, previously masked as careless teasing, became stark and unsettling. He broke up with Chloe. According to the school grapevine, the breakup was loud and explosive. Chloe had found his sketchbook. It wasn't filled with notes or drawings of sports cars. It was filled with sketches of me. Me reading, me laughing, me looking away. He's a freak. Chloe announced loudly in the girls' restroom the next day, making sure I could hear her from the stalls. He doesn't even like her. He just hates that he doesn't own her anymore. It was the most astute thing Chloe had ever said. Ethan's friends started distancing themselves. The game of messing with me had only been fun for them when it was casual, when Ethan was the cool, untouchable leader brushing off an annoying admirer. Now that I was ignoring him and he was the one haunting my shadow, it was no longer cool. It was pathetic. He started showing up at the library. He wouldn't say anything, he would just sit 3 tables away, staring at me while I studied. Do you want me to talk to him? Julian asked one afternoon, his eyes narrowing, as he glared at Ethan over the top of his laptop. No, I said, not looking up from my calculus textbook. If you engage, you give him what he wants. He wants a rivalry. He wants to be the tragic anti-hero, fighting for my attention. If we ignore him, he starves. Julian looked at me, a slow, genuine smile spreading across his face. You know, Harper, you're pretty ruthless when you want to be. I learned from the worst, I muttered. But ignoring a starving predator doesn't always make it go away. Sometimes it makes it desperate. It happened in late spring, just a week before the junior prom. I wasn't planning on going to prom. The idea of dressing up and standing in a crowded gymnasium sounded exhausting. But Julian had casually mentioned that there was a retro arcade a few towns over that was having a half-price night, and maybe we could go shoot zombies instead. I had eagerly agreed. It was a Friday night. I was in my bedroom, putting on a light jacket, ready to head downstairs to meet Julian. Thump. A dull sound came from my window. I froze. Thump. Pebbles. Someone was throwing pebbles at my second-story window. A cold dread washed over me. I walked to the window, pulled back the curtain, and looked down into the backyard. Ethan was standing on the lawn. He was soaking wet. It had been drizzling all evening, and he was wearing a suit. An actual, tailored black suit. He looked pale, gaunt, and entirely unhinged. When he saw me at the window, his face lit up with a feverish relief. He mouthed the words, "Come down." I shook my head, motioning for him to leave. He shook his head frantically, pointing to the ground, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Even from the second story, I knew what it was. He was going to cause a scene. If I didn't go down, he would start yelling, waking up my parents, waking up the neighbors. I grabbed my phone, texted Julian, "Wait in your car for 5 minutes, please," and hurried quietly down the stairs and out the back door. The air was humid, heavy with the smell of wet earth. Ethan took a step forward as I stepped off the porch, but I held up my hand. "Stop right there," I said, keeping my voice a harsh whisper. "What is wrong with you? Are you insane?" "Lily," he breathed, looking at me like I was water and he was dying of thirst. "You look beautiful." I was wearing jeans and a faded sweater. He wasn't seeing me. He was seeing a ghost, a fantasy he had built in his head. "Go home, Ethan." I can't go home." He took a ragged breath, running a hand through his wet hair. "Everything is wrong. Everything is so wrong without you. I can't sleep. I can't focus. Everyone is looking at me like I'm crazy." "Because you are acting crazy," I snapped. "You broke into my backyard. I came to fix it," he cried, his voice rising. He took a step forward, dropping to one knee right there in the wet mud. "I came to fix it, Lily. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry for the shirts. I'm sorry for Chloe. I'm sorry for all of it. I was so angry that you were growing up, that you had your own thoughts, that you didn't need me anymore. I wanted to keep you looking at me, but I took it too far." He opened the velvet box. Inside, resting on white satin, was the heavy gold ring he had stolen from his mother when we were 7. "I kept it," he whispered, tears mixing with the rain on his face. "Just like I promised. I kept it for you. Come to prom with me, Lily. Let me put it on your finger. Let's go back to how we were." I stared down at him. The boy who had tormented me, humiliated me, and broke my heart over and over again, was now kneeling in the mud, crying over a childhood trinket. 10 months ago, this would have been a dream come true. I would have dropped to my knees with him, forgiven everything, and believed that love meant enduring pain for a sliver of affection. Now, I felt nothing but a profound, overwhelming pity. "Ethan," I said softly. He looked up, hope sparking in his eyes. "We were never together," I said, my voice steady and unyielding. "There is nothing to go back to. You didn't love me. You loved the fact that I worshipped you. You loved having a pet that you could kick away and summon back whenever you pleased. But I'm not a pet." The hope in his eyes shattered, replaced by a raw, gaping panic. No, Lily. I love you. I do. I promise." "I don't care," I said. It was the truest thing I had ever spoken. I really, genuinely don't care anymore. You can't do this, he shouted, standing up suddenly, dropping the box. The gold ring tumbled out, sinking into the wet mud. You belong to me. You've always belonged to me. I belong to myself. I stepped back toward the porch. If you ever come to my house again, I am calling the police. If you ever speak to me at school again, I am reporting you for harassment. It's over, Ethan. Don't leave your garbage in my yard. I turned, walked inside, and locked the heavy deadbolt with a solid, echoing click. I stood by the door, listening. For a minute, there was nothing. Then a raw, guttural scream tore through the night air, followed by the sound of someone thrashing through the hedges. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Julian. Zombies await. Everything okay? I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. The invisible chain that had been wrapped around my chest since I was 7 years old snapped, dissolving into nothing. I'm on my way, I texted back. The Monday after the prom incident, Ethan didn't come to school. He didn't come on Tuesday either. By Wednesday, the rumors were flying. Some said his parents had sent him to a boarding school out of state. Some said he had a nervous breakdown. The truth, which I eventually heard from Maya, was that he had been suspended after getting caught completely trashing the school's trophy case over the weekend, a meltdown, caught perfectly on security cameras. His parents, finally realizing the extent of his spiral, had pulled him out of school to seek psychiatric help. The air in the hallways felt different. It was breathable. Senior year arrived with a quiet grace. Without Ethan's dark cloud hovering over me, I found out who I actually was. I wasn't just the girl Ethan bullies. I was Lily Harper. I joined the debate team. I was good at it. Years of having to carefully choose my words to avoid triggering Ethan's wrath had given me a sharp, analytical mind. I became the co-captain. Julian and I never officially labeled what we had, but it was the healthiest thing I had ever experienced. There were no games, no public tests of loyalty, no hot and cold phases. If he said he would meet me at 4 o'clock, he was there. At 3:55. If I achieved something, he celebrated it loudly and proudly. We went to college tours together, drank too much terrible diner coffee and laughed until our ribs ached. I didn't hear about Ethan for almost a year. It was late May, 2 weeks before our high school graduation. I was at the local pharmacy, picking up some photo prints for a graduation collage my mother was making. As I walked down the candy aisle, I turned a corner and nearly bumped into someone. Sorry, I said instinctively, stepping back. The person froze. I looked up. It was Ethan. The shock was immediate, but it didn't paralyze me like it used to. I analyzed him, taking him in. He looked different. He was thinner, and the arrogant, imposing posture he used to carry was gone. His shoulders were slumped, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired. He looked ordinary. Lily, he breathed, his voice barely a whisper. Ethan. I acknowledged, my tone polite but detached, like greeting a distant cousin I hadn't seen in a decade. He swallowed hard, his eyes darting around my face, looking for something. Looking for the terrified, starry-eyed girl who used to hang on his every word. He didn't find her. How? How have you been? He asked awkwardly, clutching a bottle of sports drink in his hand. I've been good. Really good, I said. And it was true. Graduation is coming up. Yeah, I heard. He looked down at his shoes. I'm taking my GD. Going to a community college out west next year. That's good. I hope it works out for you. I meant it. I didn't wish him ill anymore. Hatred requires energy, and I had none left for him. I made a motion to step around him. Lily, wait, he blurted out, stepping into my path slightly before catching himself and immediately stepping back, giving me space. My therapist said I should if I ever saw you. I need to say something. I stopped. I didn't know him my time, but I waited. I'm sorry, he said. His voice didn't have the manic, performative edge it had in my backyard a year ago. It was hollow, weighed down by genuine regret. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was a terrified, arrogant idiot. I know an apology doesn't fix anything, but I needed you to know. I know exactly what I lost, and I have to live with it. I looked at him, the boy who had demanded I run 10 laps, the boy who had humiliated me with a shirt, the boy who had promised me the world and given me ashes. Thank you, I said softly. He looked up, a tiny, fragile glimmer of hope returning to his eyes. Do you think, maybe someday, we could at least be friends again? No, Ethan, I said gently. There was no anger in my voice, only absolute certainty. We can never be friends. The hope died, replaced by a quiet, heartbreaking acceptance. He nodded slowly. Right. I understand. Goodbye, Ethan. I hope you find peace. I walked past him, heading toward the checkout counter. I didn't look back. Not once. When I stepped out of the pharmacy, the late afternoon sun was golden and warm. The air smelled like blooming jasmine and hot asphalt. My phone buzzed. Julian. Found a coffee shop that claims to have the world's best espresso. Prepared to be disappointed. You in? I smiled, the kind of smile that reached my eyes, entirely unforced and genuinely mine. Lily. Only if I get to order the most complicated pastry they have. I slipped my phone into my pocket and started walking down the street. The world was wide, the sky was bright, and my shadow walked beside me, entirely my own.